Welcome back to our panel on AI in music. We're going to kick off this talk with a presentation by Dr. Maya Ackerman. She's the CEO of WaveAI, and she's an award-winning artificial intelligence expert, and also professor, singer, the list goes on. And after her introduction to computational creativity and AI in music, we're going to be joined on the panel by the artist Portrait XO, and also Hannah Donovan. And the panel is going to discuss the application of AI in music in general. We're going to get into the depths of that world, but we're also going to talk about AI and its ability to have an impact on mental health a little bit. So why don't we get started with Dr. Maya Ackerman.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here. So I'm going to screen share here. All right. Okay, can you see my screen? I'm going to assume it's working. So today we're going to look at 3 different aspects related to musical AI, briefly look at just a few examples of each. So starting with composition. Composition is really one of the earliest parts where AI began to participate, making its own compositions and helping people to compose their own music. One of my favorite early examples back from the 1980s is a system called AMY, Experiments in Musical Intelligence, by Professor David Cope. And I'm just going to play a little bit of a song for you, created by AMY in the style of classical composer Vivaldi. All right, I really like this one. I could listen to the whole thing. There are many more examples on YouTube, actually. How about helping people to compose their own music? What's been new recently is not so much that computers can do that, but the 2 different companies created commercial products, which make that much more accessible. So they are Ava and Amper. And they're quite similar as far as the big picture is concerned. So in both cases, you specify the genre and various presets around the mood of the composition. Then the AI does a lot of the heavy lifting. It actually creates a song that matches these presets, an original song. And at the end, you have a chance to edit. So the human interfaces before and after the AI does sort of the bulk of the work here. Some professional musicians rely on Ava, in particular because it gives access to stems. But this type of system, because the AI does so much of the heavy lifting, is also relevant for people who don't necessarily know how to create music, but need the music, for example, for a commercial or for a video. All right, so moving on right away to improvisation. And that's really one of the most fun ways in which AI can engage with us. There's this fascinating video here that I like to show. I seem to be having a little bit of trouble here. Let's see if we'll be able to show that. Essentially, an AI can actually improvise with you. And in this video that I wanted to show you, it actually plays piano with another person. So there's a person playing the piano, and then there is a piano that appears to be playing itself because there is an AI powering it. If you'd like to play with something like this yourself, there's a wonderful system by my late colleague, David Keller out of Harvey Mudd here in California. And it's called Impro-Visor, and it's publicly available, it's free, and you can experience playing jazz together with a computer system. All right, finally, we move on to songwriting, and this is where some of my own work comes in as well. So the first product that we developed over a period of about 3 years helps with 3 different aspects of songwriting and essentially makes the art of songwriting very broadly accessible. So it helps people create their own lyrics, and we'll go on more into that in a second. Then it helps with vocal melodies, and this is really what I struggled with the most. So you could give it any lyrics, like "It's so great to be in this conference," and it would give you different melodies, like "It's so great to be in this conference," and you could listen to all these different ways of singing your lyrics and pick from them, and that's essentially how you build that aspect of your song. And then finally, at the end, you can either sing it yourself on the app, there's a karaoke suite, or you can have our built-in voices sing it for you. So this makes songwriting into something that a lot of people can engage in to express themselves. We noticed that people really like the lyrics component, and so we created a separate system that's more professional, specifically to help people with this part. So you specify what topics you'd like to write about. You can actually type any topics you'd like in here. And then it gives you suggestions for the lyrics, 1 line at a time. So you could, then you can edit, you can rearrange the lines, you can type your own lines. It takes into account the emotions that you're expressing, your writing style, the topics that you're capturing. And I think the best way that I heard this described by a really good musician that I'm friends with is that it's like playing tennis with AI. It's like playing musical tennis. It helps you tap into your own creativity and express yourself. So we've applied these 2 systems to a variety of things. And one thing that I wanted to briefly mention here is that in addition to helping professionals create music, which is really one of our core applications, it was also applied for mental health support. We did a study with the University of Dundee on bereavement. So people who've recently lost loved ones created songs, and we were able to show the therapeutic benefits of doing that, which was really, really amazing and not something that we originally anticipated. All right, so I'm gonna wrap up here. And the main message that I want to convey is that while there are lots of different ways that AI can help with music, it can create the whole music only in certain contexts. You can improvise with it, you can write songs with it, but ultimately it all comes down to enabling and amplifying human creativity. This is where I believe the most potential lies. I personally don't think it's quite as interesting for us to listen to AI composed music. To put AI in the middle, I feel that's really not the point. That's not where the technology shines most. But when you experience the AI helping you tap into your own creativity, enabling you to express your own emotions, that's really where the potential is, and a way in which AI can, perhaps surprisingly, help us be more human. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Maya. That was really great. So joining us digitally, I want to introduce Hannah Donovan. She's been working in entertainment tech for over a decade. She's the founder of a company called Trash, which makes it easy to create and share videos with just your phone. And before that, she was a general manager at Twitter, owned Vine, led the team and product at Expo-backed music startup Drip, was VP for design at Ripcord. The list goes on. And she's spoken at a numerous amount of festivals, TEDx, NYU, lectured at top university, Princeton, Parsons, Imperial College London, and so on. So I'm super excited to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us. And joining us on the stage, we have the artist, Portrait XO, who it's very difficult to describe what she does in general. She's a multifaceted artist that is exploring in many different avenues, from AI to virtual reality, augmented reality, and all sorts of new ways of experiencing music. And we had the fortune of meeting in Los Angeles, and an interesting side note about Portrait is that she, one of our first conversations was her describing sounds as she tasted them, because she also has synesthesia. So understanding how that incorporates into her mind and her thinking for sure makes her dive into very interesting projects in music. So, and we'll hear a little bit more about that soon. But first and foremost, I think this question should go to Maya. For those of you that don't understand what artificial intelligence is in the audience, can you give a general understanding of what the application is in music? So in terms of what a self-learning computer is and how that applies to composition.
Absolutely. So AI started with expert systems. It was all about us humans trying to look into ourselves, understand how we do things, and then have the computers essentially do the same thing. So some great stuff was done with it. And in fact, a lot of the early music systems work exactly like this. So that includes Amy, which is the first system that I showed. So essentially, a person who is a musician, so David Cope, understood how different composers created music. And to some degree, anybody who studies music has some understanding on how the great composers compose. And he codified all of these rules and had his system create through these rules, through how he understands music to be. And some systems still continue to make use of stuff like this today. So this did not die off by any stretch. A big development in artificial intelligence over the past couple of decades, really, but it dates back to the beginning of AI, except that now we have better computers so they can process more data. So essentially, instead of having to rely on human introspection, right now computers can learn directly from the data. So they look at the data. From the data, they figure out the structure of music, and then they apply that knowledge that they learned by themselves to create music. The reason this is important is because humans have very limited introspection. If we didn't, then AI could do just about anything by now if people really had great introspection. Introspection is very hard. And so it's not really necessary anymore. The AI can learn directly from the data and then apply what it learned to words, for example, music making.
Okay, that was a great explanation. So in terms of, I guess the big question here for fun is what does this mean for the community of musicians and artists in terms of are the robots coming for us? So and you mentioned in your presentation about AI and how it assists music making rather than replaces it, and it one can't help but notice that in the last 3 years there's been hundreds of these AI startup companies that are doing compositional work for film and television, doing songwriting, from lyric generation to all sorts of creative aspects that are potentially demonetizing the music industry. So I wanted to ask you and also Hannah about your thoughts about this and how you feel the industry is affected by this.
Should I start? Should we have Hannah start on this one? Okay, I'll
sure.
I'll just get.
I'm happy to. Sure, yeah, happy to take this question. It's a big one, and it's definitely one that's top of everybody's mind. I think when they first hear the words AI, they're like, oh no, what does this mean for me? So just to add a little bit more context on my background first before I jump into this. My background is creative. I'm a designer by training, but I've been working around AI systems and with machine learning for a very long time. I was an early employee at a music company called Last.fm, which I'm sure many of you know. And what we do at Trash is we help you make music videos on your phone using artificial intelligence. And actually, I was really excited to see that what Maya has just presented is very similar to the approach that we take, which is You can select a few clips on your phone, then we use AI to provide a rough cut for you, which is that like sort of first inkling of how a music video could come together. And then from there, the user can edit it themselves because, of course, you are the storyteller and you make the best decisions into something that you really want. And what we do is we help enable expression and we help enable the creation and participate in this medium by using AI. So we're not trying to put music video directors or editors out of work. We're actually helping many more people be able to create music videos right now, especially at a time when this is so important for musicians during COVID, during this time that we're living in. And to get to the question on money, not only is, I think, AI a beautiful and expressive tool that we have at our disposal as creative people, as artists, as musicians to work with and engage with and have fun with, a lot like the way that surrealists or Dadaists use happy accidents in their own work and in their art to see what would happen when you play with a machine. But also what we're seeing, especially in the video world right now, is an explosion of synchronization licensing for short form video. And that is a huge area for revenue generation right now for artists. And it's just going to continue to increase, I believe, in the same that we've seen this happen for audio recordings in the last 10 years.
Okay, great.
I'd love to just add here very, very briefly. So it's a question that comes up a lot, so I'm really glad that it came up here as well. So just a few things. First of all, computers right now are not capable of doing the kind of creativity that humans can do. That doesn't apply to all domains. There are domains where we already are seeing it, with this type of stuff that Ampere and Ava are doing for background music for certain contexts. But overall, they're more creative on a small scale in very limited, very well-defined ways, whereas humans can do big picture. They can tell it like Hannah mentioned, actually. They can tell a story, which is something that computers really struggle with, the big picture stuff. It's very, very hard for them. But even in the future, even as the capability of computers improves, I believe that humans are just the creative capability of humans is incredible. And as computers just kind of struggle to catch up, we are already somewhere completely different. We already redefined what art is and what music is. So what I really hope to see, and the way that I'm trying to make this play out in my own work, very much like Hannah, is to use AI to help us dive deeper into our creativity. And AI systems will continue to be better at that. And I hope this is where the light is going to shine.
Yeah, I like the way that was put, and it makes you think about using AI to bridge this gap between creatives and people who want to be creative and maybe don't have access to it. So jumping into the creative applications of AI, I have a question for all of you, but specifically for Portrait, because she's working on releasing soon an album where she used all sorts of tools in AI to create. So there's a lot of different projects we can dive into, but I think I'd like to ask you what you're most excited about in terms of the AI tools that you've used and what projects you're using them on that you want to share.
Sure. So the tool that I've been using a lot of has been created by my project partner DataBots, which is a duo of coders, and they specialize in machine learning with raw audio. So the process that we created together was feeding a neural net with 1 hour of my vocals that it learned, and then it generated 10 hours of new audio. And I love what Hannah and Maya both said about perspectives on AI and creativity, and I completely agree. Out of this 10 hours of audio, I would say like 5 to 10% of it was usable, because a lot of it is very glitchy and a lot of it doesn't make sense. So you get like a little lyric here and there and maybe a couple melodies that work here and there, but it's a lot of like piecing stuff together. And the best thing that I can compare it to is like when you hit play on a sequencer and you just put like the randomizer on it and you just have it play random melodies. You're not, like as a composer, most likely you're not going to use all of that. You're going to like go through it, find the melodies that you like, and then decide, okay, this is going to be the hook for the song. But with AI, I think what's really fascinating about it, at least with this process, because it was raw audio, is like the really weird glitches in between where it's like you hear the machine trying to sound human, and your own voice also is like really bizarre. So there was a lot of hair-raising moments, and there are a couple songs already out that use this, that showcases this specific method that people can listen to. So I released a single, and then we used the same process for Eurovision's AI Song Contest this year, and the jury really loved all our processes and decided to give us a jury vote, so that was exciting. But yeah, I'm always excited about learning about all these new methods, and I think that's the most exciting thing about AI is learning what the algorithm does, and just even understanding what these algorithms do has been so inspiring for my own creative thinking, and just like makes me question more and just trying to get as much detailed information about like how is it doing this, how is it learning the melodies, or so even just the conversations and learning how the developers create these algorithms and what they actually do have been what have provided a lot of inspiration. So
Very cool. And I guess the same question for you guys, but more in the aspect of, are there any tools that you guys are really excited about? And perhaps Maya, you could even mention the one that your company makes in terms of like, right now everyone is locked indoors. There's a lot of emotions going on, and for people who want to like jump into being creative but maybe aren't good lyricists, or being creative and maybe have struggled with composition or don't play an instrument. So are there any tools that you guys are excited about that might contribute to people's mental health right now?
Yeah, absolutely. It was actually early in our ALYSIA days when I realized that people are writing songs about their lives. They use names and places, and they talk about very difficult experiences. There's a lot of research showing that songwriting is therapeutic when you do it with a therapist, and we have now research showing that using our systems is therapeutic in the context of bereavement because it helps people express emotions. But that's key to mental health in general, like exactly like you're saying, to express how you feel. And it's constant. I mean, around any world events, we see people writing songs about what's going on, about trying to deal with loneliness, very often trying to deal with heartbreak. So there are two. We have our two systems. That's ALYSIA, so it's ALYSIA, and that's on iOS devices, and that helps with the whole process. So it's great for non-musicians, for people who it helps with the lyrics, it helps with the melodies, and then you don't even have to sing it. It can sing it for you. And then more recently, we created LyricStudio, which is poetry or lyrics, and that's available on the web, LyricStudio.net. Yeah, so that one is more like professionals can use it because it's more flexible. You can actually kind of enter the AI because you can edit the parameters that go inside the AI itself, which is really fun. Yeah, so these two.
Great. And Hannah?
Yeah, I can add to that. So I think something that I'm really interested in as somebody who creates tools for self-expression and has done my entire career is that creativity, especially for casual creators, is something that can boost happiness. It like improves people's overall mood. There's a lot of studies done on this now, and I'm not a scientist, so I'm not going to quote them all, but I encourage you to go do your own research. And we're definitely seeing that with our audience. So we the users of Trash are primarily young people, mostly Gen Z, casual creators, some professional creators as well, who want to make music videos either quickly or, because they know how to do it in Final Cut and Premiere, but they want to do something fast in their pocket, or because they don't have the tools or the techniques and they want to learn how to participate in this medium. And in talking to these people, these young people, there's increasingly an awareness that just doing something creative boosts your mood and helps you feel better about yourself. and that this is something that's become really important for a lot of people, especially during quarantine, especially here in the US. I'm coming to you today from LA, which has been in like stage 1 forever now, it feels like. And so yeah, I think now is actually like a really, really important time and great opportunity for people who are doing this kind of work around how can AI be used to help people express their emotions, because like Maya said, you know, expressing your emotions is really key to personal happiness. And I also wanted to quickly tap into something that you mentioned too, Portrait, which is about inspiration. That often inspiration is just, that's the hardest part for folks, is getting started. And that's where AI can be really helpful, getting over that initial hurdle of like, how do I get started? Oh no, the blank canvas, the blank text editor, whatever it might be. That can be very intimidating, especially for folks who are not trained creatives. And so that's where I think AI can be really helpful, because gets you over that initial hurdle, and then you can go in and start making some of those personal decisions like, oh, I like this sound, or I don't like that edit, or I want to change this sequence. And before you know it, now you're actually making something.
Very nice. I love that idea of the democratization of music in general, just a free-for-all for anyone who wants to just dive in. So we're going to take a question or two from our users. This one is from Yara, and she is curious about how AI songwriting can go hand in hand with human composers. For example, she references this, the computer in chess that started training as a hybrid in AI, and then started doing better than the computer alone. So I think where she's getting at is do you see a future in where AI gets so advanced in music making that it becomes indistinguishable from a composer?
So I think this is a great question, first of all. A lot of people are really scared, and I can really understand where they're coming from, because technology created some problems for artists. So definitely have a lot of empathy there. One thing that can bring comfort is that things like chess are not directly comparable to creative activities, because in chess there is a right answer. Anywhere where there is such a clear-cut right answer, computers are going to do better eventually. I mean, it just became the best Go player by a lot of measures. Creativity is not like that. Creativity is not about doing it right. It's about novelty. It's about human expression. It's so much more than right or wrong, and that's going to give us protection for a long time. It's not foreseeable right now for computers to compete in creative spaces in the way that humans can. We don't have technology that can do that. So at least for a long time, we are safe from being beat in creative tasks in the way that we've been in games.
I would like to add to that, and I completely agree. And I think like the hybrid model is what works the best with AI, and it's not smart enough right now, but I do think that it's going to carve like this new form of music. And like there's certain contexts where AI generative music is pleasing, like ambient music, for example, works really well. So maybe I can see how some of the fears around like certain aspects of music might be replaced by AI, like ad music or spas, you know, for that kind of specific music. But I do think that like crafting a song based on human experience, that's not something that a machine can do. And lyrics and stories are formed through personal experiences, and I think it's all about figuring out what's the best way to use AI. And I think we've somehow lost the narrative along the way that like AI is just technology, as it's a tool. They're all tools for us to use.
And did you want to add to that at all, Hannah? Okay. So just as a summary, so we're kind of running out of time here, but Portrait, do you want to say when you plan to release? Do you have a release date for your next project?
So I'm hoping December, January are the rough timeline at the moment. There's been a few setbacks because of the pandemic that affected like production and getting like a camera crew together, and like dates were pushed back a few times and stuff. So I've learned to kind of let go, but still stay on top of it. The music is all finished, and I'm just in the process of finalizing the first music video. So once that's done, then I can start announcing and stuff.
All right. Well, stay tuned. If you want to look up her music, I highly suggest you do so. It's Portrait XO. And in general, I mean, Google all three of these ladies and dive into the AI suite of products and knowledge that they are working on creating. So Maya, can you just really quickly, what's the quickest way for people to direct to your
if there's a chat, I could actually type up. Oh no, I don't think there is. So so there are two products. So one of them is, as I mentioned, LyricStudio. So you just type lyricstudio.net or just LyricStudio into Google. We're very easy to find. We have we really span the whole spectrum as far as our users. We have professional musicians, some really good ones using our systems, and all the way down to kids playing with lyrics for the first time. So you're definitely welcome to try. And then there is ALYSIA, which is on iOS. It's ALYSIA. And then you'll really have a deep sense for what it's like to create music with AI. Yeah, I hope you have fun and express yourself.
and the same to you, Hannah?
Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, hi. Sorry, the sound cut out a little bit earlier there. Yeah, so you can try out Trash. We're currently available only for iOS. I apologize to all the Android users in the audience, but you can find us in the App Store. Just search for Trash and try making your very own music video using artificial intelligence on your phone and see what you think.
All right, wonderful. Thank you guys for joining us.
Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.